everybody, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and comment down below. Today we got a couple things to talk about with the Miami Dolphins losing yesterday 31-17 or something along those lines, whatever it was, I don't care. There's a couple things we need to talk about, so we'll get right into it. Number one is going to be the injuries definitely took a toll on us. David Long was playing very well, and then that collision happened and he was out. Isaiah Wynn went down, so we had 3 backup offensive linemen. These injuries, they took a toll on this team yesterday, and we're going to get into another thing that I think really had a big difference in this game, but the injuries definitely kind of held us back. And why I say that is because Tua was getting pressure in his face a lot. There was not a lot of clean pockets that he could throw out of. And we had a couple of, minor mistakes that would happen, like the Tyreek Hill. He dropped a couple of different passes, and it hurt us. It definitely hurt us. The injuries definitely hurt us. And, the thing is with Xavier Howard being out, they played well. You have to give it to them. They played as best as they could on defense. They were getting pressure. It's just, we had Eli Apple and Kader Kohu out there instead of Xavier Howard and Eli Apple on the second guy. It's a big difference. It's a big difference that made, and it really was the reasoning. Even Kader Kohu, just the size difference when he's guarding A.J. Brown, it's a big difference, So the injuries definitely held us back this game. But there's another thing that I want to talk about, and it's the fact that, I don't want to say that sometimes games are rigged, but we see it commonly happen year after year for different games where it's just the blatant referee power towards one of the teams. This game was one of those games, and I'm sorry if you think I'm making excuses. That's okay if you really believe it, but the fact that the Dolphins had 10 penalties and that the Eagles had none the whole game, which, first off, if you really think about every NFL team, that's close to nearly impossible to have 0 penalties. 0. And it's not like they were blowing us out. You know what I'm saying? This is a tight game. So there's no way that you have 0 penalties. And we could see they were blatant missed calls where it's like the face mask on Cedric Wilson. You got the holdings on Van Ginkel, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, David Long. I mean, they had so many holding calls that were not called. The false starts by the right tackle over and over again. It was egregious. And this was one of those games that I was like, the betting USA takes a toll sometimes on the NFL where, I don't know. I mean, it looked like they were helping the Eagles out as much as they possibly could. At every drive, even on our offense, the drive where we're rolling down the field and we have a big play and they call holding on Julian Hill when he's just blocking. It's clear as day. There was 0. It wasn't even something that you could even think was a holding. He was just blocking a guy. It was egregious. It was bad. And it was to the point where, like, I think in the third quarter, I was just like, or halfway into the third quarter, I was just like, dude, they're not going to call anything. So you just gotta play this game, because they're not going to do anything. They're going to keep calling bad calls and the Christian Wilkins roughing the pass. I mean, it was just egregious ref calls over and over again, where it looked like they were just clearly trying to get the Eagles to win this game. Now, they won fair and square. Well, you can't say fair and square, but they won, and it is what it is. We also made a bunch of mistakes. That interception to Mostert, that was a dub play. That was a dub throw. Even if there was, which that was another one that should have been called, probably a holding, it's still, you can't throw that ball when we're, in the area where we could score a field goal, because that still makes the game. Instead of being down 7, we're down 4. So you can't throw that ball. I understand you're trying to make a play and, things are happening, but you can't do that, because then what happens is now the defense and the momentum comes on their side when you throw an interception. You know what I'm saying? Instead of us scoring 3 points, just kicking the ball off and being fair and even Steven. So that was just a dumb throw by Tua. And I'm noticing that, against these good teams, Tua, man, he really has to stop doing that. It's starting to get tiresome where it just seems like every time we play one of these good teams, he just has to throw one of those stupid balls. Maybe it has to do with, we don't have a receiver that can go up and get it, which is, it might be something that is the reason why they brought Chase Claypool, is because they don't have a receiver that can go up for a 50-50 ball. And that I think is something that we need to get Chase acclimated, and he needs to be in these games, because I think that's a problem. I think Tua has to make these perfect throws to these receivers, and he doesn't have a guy that he can just, toss it up to, and it's either an incomplete catch or a catch. I mean, Tyreek Hill is great, but you can't just throw the ball up to Tyreek Hill. It has to be at him where he can catch it and go. So that's another thing. But again, I want to go back to the refs. I mean, it was clear as day. This game looked rigged by the way that they were calling. Just the fact that they had zero penalties on them the whole game. Zero. It was mind-boggling. It was mind-boggling, to say the least, and I can't understand it. I mean, clear as day. It looked like they wanted the Eagles to win. Everybody bet on the Eagles to win. If the Dolphins won, people were going to lose money, and that's probably what happened, because we see this a lot in the NFL. And I've been saying for a while, you need to be able to find the refs. I'm sorry. If you want this betting stuff to stop, which they probably don't, because betting probably takes a huge chunk of, the income that the NFL makes, you got to find these refs. You got to find them just like the players. If a ref makes a really horrible call, or, they miss calls over and over again, you got to find them, You have to find them. You cannot allow these refs to keep controlling games like this. Because what you have to understand is that you even consider this. We are stopping them. Christian Wilkins, we're stopping them. He barely touches Jalen Hurts. That gives them the momentum for that drive. They score that touchdown. If that doesn't happen, we might stop them and get the ball back. That's 7 points. The Julian Hill, we're driving down the field. That was a first down. You take that away, and we're holding, that stops that drive. That's 7 points. That's a 14-point swing just on 2 penalties that you called that completely destroyed the momentum of the Dolphins. You can say whatever you want, but I mean, in this case, the refs took over the game. Where that's right there, that's 14 points that you call. Even the Mostert, you're getting held, you call that play, that's a first down. That's another 7 points. You have to understand that this is nonsensical. On top of that, the holding calls, that's 10 yards. That's putting them in a hole, just like they tried to do for us. That's stopping drives. It's egregious, because there's so many holding calls. That stops a lot of their drives that they had yesterday. That is why you have to find these refs, but they're not going to, obviously, because betting, they take a big place in betting. It's an underlying fact that the refs, they allow people to bet on certain teams, and when, there are powerful people that are betting on certain teams to win games, they have to do this stuff. Same thing that happened in the Rams-Saints, that AFC, you have to do that. You never hear of those refs again. Well, this is that type of game. A lot of people bet on the Eagles, and, the refs called the Eagles' way. There's no way that there were 0 penalties, and there's no way that was just missed calls. They weren't missed calls. They were trying to miss the calls. That was what was happening. They were trying to do that. There's no other way around it. So it is what it is. We still had a chance to win this game. We made some mistakes, and the injuries caught up to us. So that is a big factor. But, I still think that we have a lot of good to look out of this. The defense looked pretty good. Everything looked pretty solid for the most part. It's just, again, the momentum stops when you call these different fouls. I'm sorry to say this, but the momentum stops. These are 14, 21-point swings that you kill by calling a flag for no reason. But it is what it is. On to next week. On to the New England Patriots. As always, guys, hope you have a great rest of your day. Fins up, baby. Peace. Praise God, love God.